Let's talk about a puzzle. How can someone be incredibly successful? We're talking advanced degrees, a rock star at work, and at the same time, feel like they're just one step away from it all falling apart? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden story of high-functioning ADHD. You'll see how it can go completely undiagnosed for years, sometimes decades, even in the most brilliant people.
And this quote? This is the paradox that sits right at the center of our whole story today. It's from a super intelligent adult who, believe it or not, was assigned to teach students with ADHD's study skills back in her college psychology program. The unbelievable irony is that she had no clue how to do any of the things she was supposed to be teaching. Why? Because she'd been getting by on pure brain power her entire life.
So yeah, that leads us right to our big question for today. How on earth can someone who looks like they have it all together on the outside feel like a total fraud on the inside? How can they be struggling with things that seem so simple to everyone else? The answer, as you're about to see, is buried deep beneath years and years of success and a ton of misunderstood clues. Okay, so let's start with that surface level, that successful facade. Because from the outside looking in, the person at the heart of this story is the very picture of competence, a true high performer. And we're not talking about small wins here. This is someone who graduated from a university honors program and then went on to get an advanced degree. They work in a really demanding field, forensic mental health, where they're seen as the expert. People literally come to them for the answers, and they're trusted to handle huge responsibilities with almost no supervision. And yet, this is what's going on internally. This quote just hits you, right? It shows this massive disconnect. Behind that superachiever is someone who can spend a whole day off just stuck in bed. Not because they're sad, but because they physically can't get started. They want to do things, they know they need to do things, but that wire between thinking and doing just feels broken. This has nothing to do with being lazy, it's a very real kind of neurological gridlock. To really get how these two completely different realities can exist in one person, we have to hit rewind. We have to go back. Because the clues, they were there the whole time, right from childhood. They just kept getting mistaken for something else, like being a bad kid or having character flaws. And this timeline, it lays out a crystal clear pattern. In elementary school, the talkative kid who's always being moved, always being separated. At home, every morning was a battle just to get out the door. Middle school, impulsive behavior meant detention after detention. In high school, they were always late, so consistently late they'd rack up just enough tardies to get 2 detentions every single quarter. And college? That's where being brilliant became the perfect camouflage. They could still get an A on a huge project by pulling it off in one insane, panic-driven 24-hour marathon. And that brings us to a really key idea here, compensation. See, when you're really smart, you figure out workarounds. You can outsmart your own challenges. You can survive on all-nighters. You use your intellect to build these elaborate systems that hide the fact that you're struggling underneath. But here's the thing. That compensation is not free. It has a massive hidden cost in anxiety, in mental energy, and in how you see yourself. You could almost think of this cost as a compensation tax. It's this huge, invisible effort you have to put in every single day just to seem normal and keep up that successful front. And this really shows you what that tax looks like. On the outside, everyone sees top grades and trusts you with big projects. On the inside, that success is paid for with pure panic and a cycle of burnout. People think you're smart, but you feel like a total failure every time you forget something important. You look organized at work, but that's only because you desperately need external structures, like your boss checking your notes, just to stay on track. So what is the engine driving this whole struggle? Well, it's a challenge with something called executive functions. You can think of these as the CEO of your brain. They're the skills that let you manage yourself. For this person, it means that a multi-step task, like filling out a visa application, becomes an absolute nightmare. It means being unable to start simple things, like making dinner. It's something called time blindness, where you have zero internal clock, so you have to constantly check your watch. And it's a deep, powerful avoidance of any task that isn't super stimulating. You know, getting a diagnosis for this as an adult, it's not about one single test. It's about a professional looking back at your entire life and connecting all of these seemingly random dots, from the talkative kid in 3rd grade to the burnt-out professional, and finally seeing that it was all part of the same pattern. A clinician looks for these classic symptoms, of course, but in a high-functioning adult, they're often in disguise.
Excessive talking as a kid might turn into an adult who's constantly, anxiously trying not to talk too much. That frequent fidgeting is still there, but it's been tamed. Maybe it's a foot tapping under a desk while you're secretly worrying that everyone thinks you're impatient. And the evidence in adulthood, once you know what to look for, it is absolutely everywhere. It's stuff like losing both of your university diplomas because you put them in a special place, and then they're just gone forever. It's having the exact same fight with your partner again and again because you genuinely don't remember how you resolved it last time. It's the feeling of being completely paralyzed by trying to create a simple budget, even though you have a genius-level intellect. These aren't character flaws, they're symptoms. So, getting a diagnosis isn't the end of the road. Not at all. It's actually the starting line. It's about finally getting the right user manual, the right set of tools for a brain that's just wired a little differently.
And the path forward usually has a few parts. First, medication can often help with the core brain chemistry, making it easier to focus and, most importantly, to just start things. Second, it's about building and relying on personal systems, the calendars, the alarms, the routines that create the external structure your brain needs. And third, professional coaching can be a game changer for helping you use those systems in the messy, unstructured parts of life, like at home where things often fall apart. And this right here, this is probably the biggest mindset shift that comes with a diagnosis. The goal isn't to fix yourself anymore. It's not about trying to hammer a square peg into a round hole. It's about finally accepting the shape of the peg and then building a life full of square holes. A life that supports how your brain actually works instead of constantly fighting against it. So if you walk away with just one thing from all of this, let it be this. You can be brilliant, you can be successful, and you can still have ADHD. The two things are not mutually exclusive. In fact, sometimes being so smart just makes you better at hiding it, even from yourself.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. This story is about one person, sure, but the feeling behind it is pretty universal. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many of us are paying some kind of massive, hidden compensation tax every single day, just burning ourselves out to keep up with a world that wasn't designed for the way our brains work?